Hey, what's up everyone? My name's CS Samurai, and today we're going to be taking a look at PHP's substring function, or the substr function if you want. Anyway, let's dig in. So as the name implies, substring will return a substring of a string that you give it. So there are three parameters. The first one is the string that you want to extract the substring from. The second parameter is a starting position, and this is really an index and it starts at 0. And the third parameter is a length, and this determines the maximum number of characters that substring will return. For our examples, our string is going to be ABCDEF, and let's get a substring going on here. So we're going to put in our first argument, which is our string of ABCDEF. Our second argument, let's just do 0 and see what we get. So we'll var dump this. And if we switch over, so if we save, switch over here to our terminal and execute. And we can see that we get ABCDEF. So what's happening here is we're passing 0 in as our second argument. And what this is saying is basically we want to start from the very beginning of our string. So it's basically here before the A, and we want to return the entire string. So obviously this doesn't do anything to the string itself. It'll just return the entire string again. We can also do something like, so if we put in 3 and see what we have here, we get DEF. So what's happening here is what we're saying is we want to start at the third position. If we put our cursor at the beginning of the string and we count 1, 2, 3, these three characters are the characters that are going to be essentially omitted from the substring. So we're going to start at this position here between the C and the D. So then we're going to return the rest of the string, which of course is DEF, and that is what we get as our output. The starting position does not need to be only positive. It can be positive and negative. So if we were to put -2 here, we can see that we get EF. So this is interesting. What's going on here is if we pass a negative, PHP will actually start from the end of our string and count backwards. So we start at the end of our string and count 1, 2. So our starting position is actually between the D and the F, or excuse me, the D and the E. And then we return the rest of the characters from that position, which of course are E and F, and that's what we get. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the third argument, which is the length. So we can do something where, let's pass 3 here, and what we would expect to happen is we're starting at 0, which is the very beginning of our string. So if we go up here, we're starting right here, and our length is going to be 3. So it's going to simply count 1, 2, 3, and it should return ABC. So let's see if it does. And it does, which is great. So again, the third argument is the maximum length of the string that's going to be returned. In this case, we have 3, so we would expect 3 characters to be returned as long as the string is at least 3 characters. And like the second argument, the third argument does not need to be positive. It can be negative as well. So if we put a -2 in here, let's talk about what would happen here. So again, our starting position is 0. And our length is actually -2. So when the third argument is negative, what this is essentially telling PHP is the number of characters to truncate from the end of the substring that's returned. So in our case, the normal substring that would be returned from this without the third argument would be ABCDEF. It would be our entire string. But since we put -2 in the third argument, it's actually going to truncate 2 characters off of the end. So we would expect ABCD to be returned here. And if we take a look, sure enough, ABCD is in fact returned. So hopefully that makes sense. Now there are a few quirks with substrings return values. So if we take a look here, so we know we have 6 characters in our string ABCDEF. However, let's say we didn't know that and we wanted to start at the 10th character or the 10th position. Let's take a look and see what we get there. So we actually get false. It returns false when the starting position is out of bounds. Essentially, there's not 10 characters in our string, so it can't possibly get to the 10th position and returns false. If you look at another example here, let's say the third argument is -10. Again, this should not work because there aren't 10 characters to truncate. So if we take a look to see what we get here, we get false again. Now there is one more case that I want to look at. If we put, for some silly reason, we put 0 here as the third parameter, the third argument, maybe this isn't a variable or something. You know, we have length of 0, and let's just pretend this is dynamic. And we have length here. And yeah, let's say for some reason this is 0. So if we take a look over here at what we actually get an empty string. There's 3 return values, potential return values of substring. There's the substring, of course. There's an empty string, and then there's false. So we have to be careful when we check the return value of substring. For example, if we're explicitly checking for false, we would want to do something like substring. It doesn't matter. We'll put 0. Get rid of this. If we do something like this, this will not behave as we would expect because we're not strictly checking the return type of substring here. This is a loose comparison. So an empty string will actually evaluate to false as well. If we're explicitly checking for false values here, we want to do a strict type check. So that is something to watch out for because it's a little bit of a gotcha. All right, that wraps it up for the substring function. Pretty straightforward. Again, there are a couple of things to watch out for, mainly with using positive and negative integers with the second and the third parameters and the return type. Those are really the things to be mindful of. So if this video helped you understand substring, please leave a like and also subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be uploading weekly computer science related videos, and I would love to have you along for the ride. And of course, if you do have any questions or comments about the substring function, please leave a comment below and I will respond to you as soon as I can. All right, thanks for watching. Peace.